There's been a lot of criticisms thrown at the mobile gaming market in recent years, thanks to the proliferation of smart devices like the iPhone all across the world. These days, you're very likely to see a child with a smartphone poking away at games many people would call cheap, thoughtless, and kind of creating lower expectations for what we think video games should be. And for the most part, people who say that are right. Mobile gaming's got a bad rap, however, and not all developers of mobile games are to blame. With microtransactions that create a free-to-play, pay-to-win environment where the skill or patience of a player can be circumvented by a bit of coin changing hands, many consider the mobile gaming marketplace to be one about exploitations and cheap, hollow experiences. And even then, some microtransaction games can still be fun, and some can even be played without emptying your pockets, but the experience is often flat, boring, and kind of unethical. After all, isn't the best part of a video game being good at them and actually having fun conquering them with your own skill level? Other complaints people have are with the controls for mobile games, citing the fact that touchscreens just can't replace tactile inputs, and while that's kinda true, companies that actually care to put in the effort have improved touch-based controls for games greatly in the past few years. Despite the complaints that people have with mobile games, including me, there are actually a lot of good ones out there. It's not just all crap, and it's not just all terrible games that you can play on smart devices. I've had an iPhone for about 2 years now, and in that time I've played some of the worst mobile games on the App Store. But I've also played some of the best, and I want to talk about 5 of those today. This is my top 5 games that you can play right now on your iPhone. Time Surfer is one of the most addictive, endless runner style arcade games that I've ever played. With an appealing retro aesthetic and one of the grooviest soundtracks I've ever heard, Time Surfer pulls you in with that just one more round mentality that makes me glad I'm not forced to toss quarters at my iPhone screen to keep playing. It's a rather simple game where you're trying to outrun the end of the universe and there's a ton of obstacles and things in the way, which can either outright kill you or slow you to a crawl. By holding down one side of the iPhone screen, you force your character to grind down on the winding path, building up momentum on the downward slopes of the hills. Releasing that side of the phone while ascending from the valleys of the path will launch you through the air, allowing you to gain speed and bounce off obstacles, which will then in turn allow you to get further and further away from the end of the universe. If you hit an obstacle, die, or miss a jump or power-up that you want, you can rewind time by holding the left side of the phone. Rewinding time takes power, which is regained through gems scattered everywhere. Rewinding time is a lot of fun since it allows you to undo a mistake or shoot for extra distance by finding a better way to move forward, but you have to be smart about it since the game is over once you die and can't rewind time anymore. The concept is very similar to another game, Tiny Wings, which is also great and highly recommended, but Time Surfer's use of power-ups like the speed boost and gem magnet, the rewind ability, and the need to dodge all sorts of obstacles make it a very tense experience, yet an extremely fun one at that. With several different challenges and modes to tackle, Time Surfer offers a lot of content, and with different pets and characters to play as, you'll have several different powers to help you blast to the highest score. Time Surfer is a lot of fun, and in my mind, really is the best endless runner you could play. Monument Valley is an experience, but still very much so a game, just a very, very short one. Players control the Silent Princess, guiding her through MC Escher-like puzzle buildings. Rather than just rotating the world just for a different vantage point like you would in a game like Captain Toad, players are able to rotate and manipulate objects and machines in order to create pathways that allow for the princess to advance towards the goal. And the way that those paths line up with other objects, walls, and floors is where the puzzling mechanics actually come into play. Are those two sections of path actually connected? If you turn the area one way, will another path connect? Those questions are the very core of the puzzle experience in Monument Valley. There are enemies that will get in the way, and finding a way to sneak by them using the same path-changing mechanic is actually pretty fun. And that's really the basics of the gameplay in Monument Valley, and it really isn't very challenging. You can get through most levels in the game fairly quickly, and overall, Monument Valley is really short, with players able to complete the game in about 2 hours. There's a story here too, albeit one that might take a few playthroughs to fully appreciate, but since Monument Valley's presentation and fairly simple gameplay are so inviting, that's not really a problem. Monument Valley is a very short experience, but what an experience it is. The graphical appeal of this game alone attracted me to it, and the joy of wrapping my head around these puzzling environments that play with the visual styles of MC Escher wonderfully is a delightful mechanic that I'm glad isn't overused in games, since it allows titles like Monument Valley to stand out. The price is a bit higher than one might want to pay for such a short experience, but I find myself coming back to Monument Valley every few months and enjoying it just a little bit more each time. Mobile games aren't all simple endeavors, and some games try very hard to prove that a console-like experience can be created on the mobile platform. A throwback to the glory days of Square in the early to mid-90s, Final Fantasy Dimensions shares a lot with its main series' older siblings. The plot is about a bunch of crystals, a backstabbing empire, and a bunch of young kids tossed into the mix who have to sort through their own melodrama in order to save the world. Now, doesn't that sound like a couple older titles in the franchise? That's not where the similarities end. FFD also features the series' well-known job system, with characters able to swap between several different classes, with a handful of basic ones available at the start, and more complex and powerful ones unlocked throughout the story. And while the overall plot of FFD is a little on the bland side, it features some very funny and interesting characters that really take you back to the early days of the franchise. Sol and Noct, who I've previously talked about on this show, are vastly contrasting party leaders, with Sol leading the Warriors of Light, and Noct leading the Warriors of Darkness. Each party gains different specialty jobs the others can't use, such as the Dragoon for the Warriors of Light and the Ranger for the Warriors of Darkness. While we've seen most of these classes before, the job system is probably at its most robust in this game, with characters able to take various commands and bonuses gained in one class and mix and match them with another, like they always have been able to, but they're also able to create special fusion abilities that are unlocked by using certain commands in battle. If you couple that with the already large variety that the vanilla classes offer, you've got a pretty large customizable party at your fingertips. Combat is very old school Final Fantasy, featuring the active time battle system fans of the series will know like the back of their hands. Different spells take longer to cast than others, agility is necessary to get more attacks in before your enemies, and it's the type of battle system that makes casting spells like Slow and Haste actually worthwhile. And to this day, it remains one of my favorite turn-based battle systems, and Final Fantasy Dimensions captures it beautifully. The addition of an auto mode for battles make the ever-present grinding a little bit more palatable for leveling up and gaining new abilities, and commands are big enough and easy to access on the touchscreen, and you have several options for the virtual D-pad, though it can be a little slippery at times. There's not a lot in terms of fancy animation or cutscenes, but I see FFD as a love letter to games like Final Fantasies 4 and 5, and like those titles, it's able to tell a decent tale without taking the player away from the action for very long. And there's a lot of game here, at least over 50 hours, not really counting any hidden dungeons or side quests. And while FFD is on the expensive side for a mobile game, Final Fantasy Dimensions does a lot more to deserve the brand's name than other mobile cash-in games like Final Fantasy All the Bravest, for example. Presentation-wise, Final Fantasy Dimensions is pleasing to look at, especially the monster and boss graphics, though many will comment that the graphics have a bit of an RPG Maker shine to them. You'll also trudge through a lot of mountains and caves in the early parts of the game, but the dungeon layout and such takes you back to the early days of Final Fantasy, just like the rest of the game. With good characters like the coldest hero in Final Fantasy history, Noct, and the inappropriate and funny Alba, Final Fantasy Dimensions expertly takes us back to the days when Final Fantasy games took themselves a little less seriously, but were still addicting and endearing adventures that players eagerly set out on. Final Fantasy Dimensions is not only a worthwhile addition to your pocket, but also to the main series overall. A few years back, there was a simple puzzle game called Dots. You connected dots into groups of 2 or more to clear them, and made squares to clear all the dots of that color. Basically, you try to clear as many as you can in 1 minute or a certain amount of moves, depending on which mode you wanted to play. It was simple, fun, and damn was it addicting. The sequel though, now that's a lot of fun. 2 Dots took the formula of dots and didn't change a thing, well, mechanically at least. Now instead of having a time limit and a basic square layout, there are various layouts, all getting more difficult as you progress through the game. While the player needs to accomplish these goals within a certain amount of turns, the conditions for the game never seem unrealistic or unattainable. This is how you take a great puzzle game and concept in itself and improve on it in almost every way. I like the little story of the 2 Dots traveling the world, the flat minimalistic look of the game and the soundtrack, but what I don't like are the microtransactions. 2 Dots is one of the best games on mobile devices, but damn it, the fact that you can't lose more than 5 games before it forces you to wait for your lives to recharge is awful, since some of the challenging levels will sap your lives in 5 minutes. Then you'll have to wait almost a whole hour to get all of your lives back again and continue playing. Some of the power-ups cost real money and are pretty much unattainable in the main game, but in a recent update, 2 Dots does have daily challenges where you are awarded some power-ups, but still, microtransactions like this play at our impatience or desire to proceed, and games that are actually good, like 2 Dots, just don't need them. Let's get back to the good things, though. Taking the dots out of the basic grid of the original game and adding things like anchors to sink and ice blocks to break made what was a super minimalistic puzzler into a still rather minimalistic puzzler, but with another layer of strategy. The flat design only makes the game easier to understand and appreciate, and it's a direction that works amazingly well on a mobile device. Since you only have so many moves, you have to prioritize your actions on each level, rather than just try to clear as many dots as you can. While I'm still a little irked microtransactions seemingly popularized by games like Candy Crush Saga have wormed their way into a game that's fundamentally as solid as 2 dots, this is still a game that every match-style puzzle fan needs to play. The Professor Layton series has long been one of my favorite DS and 3DS series of games. I've long enjoyed puzzles and figuring out riddles and the like, so naturally I was drawn to the well-mannered professor pretty easily, and I've been hooked on his games for a really long time. So when I heard that a Leighton game was coming to the iPhone, I was pretty stoked. But Leighton Brothers Mystery Room is not a puzzle game. If anything, the game shares more ties with a game like Ace Attorney Investigations, but it still retains some of that Leighton charm. Detective Constable Lucy Baker has just joined Scotland Yard's Mystery Room, a special division for serious crimes, and works under Inspector Alfendi Leighton, who she refers to as the Prof, something Alfendi's pop, Herschel, probably wouldn't care to hear. Alfendi's job is to solve these serious crimes by using a crime scene reconstruction device, which accurately recreates the areas crimes occurred and allows him to investigate without leaving the office. Here, Lucy assists him in finding evidence about murders as well as assists in questioning the suspects. Lucy is a gung-ho investigation rookie and Alfendi a seasoned veteran. Their relationship as characters is really interesting to see played out over the course of the game. Conversation between characters has always been one of the strong points of the Leighton series, and Level 5 managed to bring much of that to this mobile spin-off, with eccentric suspects and an overarching main plot that, while episodic with each case divided up to be more easier to consume for mobile players, allows for a lot of interaction and conversation between some very well-written, though sometimes flat, characters. The crux of the gameplay for Leighton Brothers Mystery Room does take place in these crime scene reconstructions. You poke around looking for evidence and try to piece together what happened. You only have a few areas of importance to explore, sectioned off by these yellow circles, but finding the right items when needed can be difficult and does require the player to think a little bit. You'll also have to prove your points occasionally through multiple choice prompts in order to further the investigation or to put pressure on a suspect. While this is very simple, the game's difficulty ramps up and down at certain points, meaning things you'll have to prove or show will be harder to figure out, and the game's narrative makes you desperately want to figure out what's going on and keep investigating. While the actual gameplay of Leighton Brothers Mystery Room is really nothing more than search a scene, find an item, prove why that item is relevant to your current line of inquiry, etc., it's everything surrounding it that helps hook the player. The characters really help sell that experience, and backed with a charming Leighton-style presentation and a killer soundtrack, Leighton Brothers does an excellent job to bring what made the DS games so fun to mobile devices. And the game's not as simple as, someone killed someone, solve the case. Like any good Professor Layton title, there's some twists and turns all over the place, such as a serial killer, and the sudden changes in Alfendi's personality, from a soft-spoken brainiac trying to put criminals behind bars, to a devilishly violent master of deduction teeming with a darkness of his own and a fascination for those that have killed. How Lucy, who the player actually controls, works through these cases and interacts with the unstable yet brilliant Alfendi and the story surrounding his split personalities is even more addicting than the deduction-based gameplay proper. While the game itself is fragmented in a way that makes it easy to digest on a mobile device, Leighton Brothers doesn't suffer from any disconnect between cases. You solve one and it's right on to the other in no time, and you're thrust into another brain teaser of murderous proportions. Leighton Brothers Mystery Room is similar to Final Fantasy Dimensions in that part of the game is free, but the rest will cost some cash. Thankfully, it's not terribly expensive for just how long of an experience Mystery Room offers, since the free content is easily 2 hours long and features the shortest and easiest cases. I simply cannot recommend this game enough to fans of the Leighton series, or fans of the Ace Attorney games as well. The tale of Herschel Layton's crazy son and his young apprentice Lucy is a tale that's hard to put down, surrounded by simple yet fun investigation gameplay. It's a spin-off that complements the source material nicely, with a lot of references back to the main Professor Layton titles. A sequel, maybe one that brings in the good professor, is a game that is on my wish list to hopefully be released one day. And there you go, a handful of some of my favorite games that you can play on your smartphone. I've only got an iPhone, but most of these games are actually also available on Android devices. They're mobile, intended for you to play on the go or in short bursts at home, with either arcade-like gameplay, short puzzles, or episodic sections of a larger experience. But there's still excellent games, mobile or not, that offer compelling reasons to play them. There's a lot of smart devices out there, and they don't need to be filled to the brim with stupid, mindless distractions. If you're gonna play some games and you've got a smartphone, you really can't go wrong with any of these.